Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, whatever time it may be at the time that you are listening to this podcast. I am your host, Miss Unique, and welcome in. Welcome in. This is Beyond Unique Shattered Dreams, where every shattered dream becomes a sometimes harsh reality. Yes, it does. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. On today's story time and today's episode is going to take you on a little bit of an adventure for sure. And I would like to start this podcast with a scripture that will kind of tie everything in by the end for sure, right? So, the scripture that I would like to use for this particular story time and episode comes from Genesis 50:20, and it was a popular scripture around definitely when I grew up, and I use it a lot myself. And that is, what the enemy or devil meant for evil, God will use for your good. Now, this is a phrase that refers to the idea that God will use what the devil intends for evil in your life to bring about good in your life, right? I think we've all been there at some point, right? We could see that the devil definitely had it out for us, right? The enemy, the adversary, whatever you may call him in your life, but he definitely had it out for us. And we can see how God turned that situation around, and it was used for good in the end. So this story time is going to definitely tie into that as you see the twists and the turns of this particular story. So we start this story when I graduated. I believe it was when I graduated college. And no, not when I graduated college. This was after I had got married. And I wanted to go off on this adventure, right? I was like, I mean, who wants to still be home, right? I didn't want to be home. And we were younger, and I was like, well, I know what we can do. We both loved God. He was a man of God, young man of God. I was a woman of God. We thought that it would be a great idea to go on a mission trip, right? So I had already been signing up for programs like this because I had been wanting to get away from home. Okay. If you listen to a previous episode of mine, where I think it's the episode that talks about the relative that escaped, in that story, I talk about the fact that I was headed to China, right, to teach English. Very interesting story time there. I'm not gonna spoil it. You're just gonna have to go and listen to that episode. But yeah, so this time I'm like, I want to go on a mission trip. And, at that time, I don't think my church was offering that, or I don't think they had that going on at the time. So I looked around, excuse me, I looked around for things and places and things that I could do that would interest me. So I was able to see that there was like this mission trip in it was a place in Africa. I think it was, you know what? I'm not even going to say the name because I don't remember the name, and I don't want y'all crucifying me. Be like, that's not it at all. How could you say? So I'm not going to worry about saying the name, but just know it was in South Africa somewhere. Definitely. I believe I remember the name, but I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it just because I'm not quite sure. However, though, now by the time I had got married and we decided that this is something that will be great for us, we decided that we were going to do like this fundraiser to try to raise the rest of the fund, to try to raise these funds for this trip and all of that. So we did the fundraiser. Let's just say that was a flop, right? This fundraiser was a flop. We did not get as much as we thought that we were going to get from this, and as much as support from the community and the church and things like that. So we definitely were short. But also, I had been filling out, like I said, I had been filling out for things. So as we're kind of, upset and kind of disappointed about this fundraising, it didn't go that well. What pops up in my email box is the fact that I had filled out for this particular program many months prior. And this program was in Texas. And what they were asking was for a house mom and a house dad. Now, or a house couple. And if you don't understand this is, well, for their particular program. So this would be a couple that would come in, a woman of God, man of God, that would come in, and they would stay in the organization, inside the homeless. It was a homeless ministry and organization, right? And you would stay inside of there and be the house parents, where those that were living in there at that time can come to you for wisdom and prayer and guidance, spiritual guidance and things like that. And we're like, hey, this may be a great opportunity. Number one, to leave. And also, we had already started packing our stuff in faith that we were going to make enough for this fundraiser, which did not happen, right? So we kind of still had our stuff packed. But we were like, hey, Texas is warm, right? So we don't really have to unpack our stuff. So we're like, you know what? This may be a great opportunity. And also in that, we had started a program. Well, at least my husband at the time had started a program where I think you were going to do ministry, and you were supposed to get a certification of some sorts. But then also, whatever it is that you learned during these courses, you also were going to use it, in real life as well, as part of the entire program. So we thought that this would be a great kind of connection of the two. So as he went through ministry school, this would also help him as well. So we thought that this was just a good fit for where we were at, what was going on in our lives at the time, and kind of like our future and where we wanted to go. And we wanted this different opportunity. So we felt like this was a really good fit. So we decided that we were going to head on this journey, right? We head on this journey to Texas. And we get to this place, and we had never been in a situation like this before. But like I said, we were there to be house parents. So this was a homeless organization where people came to live, to get themselves back on their feet, start back working. So they provided, they provided work, or ways for you to obtain work. And they gave the residents, they gave them chores to do, and, times to do those chores. They had curfews, all these things, right? So we were coming to be a part of that, community setting. And here we are, newly wedded, right? maybe months into our marriage. I think maybe months into our marriage. It had to be within the first year of our marriage or so. And so we're newlyweds. We're like, okay, great. We're, out here in the world, going to experience the world and all. And so we get there and we're like, okay, this is different, but we can do this. So they give us a room. It's a room just like the rest of the residents, right? And it's a room that seems to be, and we don't really know that yet, but it's kind of connected to the office, like the the secretary office. And our room is kind of connected to it. So what that means is our bathroom was like on the other side of the office. So if there was water running or a toilet flushing or something like that, it could definitely be heard. And people were coming in there to like talk to the secretary and the assistant and stuff. And so that became a thing. So we're like, we're not really going to take showers at a certain time, and we're not going to try not to flush the toilet when people are in there. So it was a whole thing, right? So we're getting there and we're there like the first night, and they introduced themselves to us, and like the pastor and the person who's kind of like over this, oh my goodness, he was like this huge guy, like 6'6", 6'7" or something. And he was a pastor, and he seemingly enjoyed what he did. But we started to see some things later on, and I'll inject those things as the story goes, because it is what ultimately made kind of our final decision. So we had this room, and we're like, okay, good. We're in a different town, a different state. We can go and explore and different things like that. And also, we're coming with our things, right? We're coming with our things. And one of the first things is us realizing that we weren't getting a key to our room. We weren't getting a key to our room. So now we're next to the office. Our bathroom is kind of connected to the office. And then now we're not getting a key for our room. And this is really weird, right? So we're not getting a key for our room because apparently, we're supposed to be in here like the residents, and they don't get keys to their room because their rooms are always being checked and things like that. They can close their door, right? But no keys to the room. Okay, I get that for the residents, but for us, and while we were there, we had expensive laptops and things like that. And we found that really odd. Then, as we would go out and just explore and different things like that, and then come back, we seemingly had curfew issues, and we were kind of like, what? Like, because once again, we're the house parents, and so we were the house parents. So there was then a curfew. Then within the house, there was, times that everyone can eat and do chores, and when the kitchen would close and things like that. So if we came in, a little later, the kitchen would be closed at times, and we would be told we can't go to make anything or whatever. So we're just starting to feel a little uneasy about this, right? And I must inject now that we meet this lady in like the first week or two of us being there. And she used to live there. And she has a success story of the fact that she's now living on her own. And, she comes back to volunteer, which we thought was a fabulous thing. And she kind of, had her things to say ultimately about the program overall. but that, it helped her get on her own, get on her own feet and things like that. So as we go on, we're like, okay, now there's a job component to this thing here where there is the residents have to be up at a certain time, and get out, to look for a job if they don't have a job. They also have to give their checks and stuff to the organization so that they kind of, I guess, divvy them out, some money, or it's seemingly like rent of some sort. So there's like families there. So you can have a husband and a wife and kids, or you can have just a mother and children. But I don't think that there were just any men by themselves that were there, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. So anyway, now I preference meeting this lady that basically kind of gave us the ins and outs of how the organization ran and things like that. Now we came into seemingly some issues with this because it was like they began to view us like we were the residents. And the reason why this was an issue was because we weren't homeless, we came from a home, right? Living in a different state. And we came from a home to come and help them. But now we were being treated as if we weren't here to help them per se, and we weren't on like the same level with them. They were looking at us like we were residents as well, even though we were living in there. So this became to be uncomfortable for us, for sure. And what ended up happening was that some back and forths happened between us and that particular pastor that I spoke about and the assistant and things. And we just started seeing things that we did not like. And we didn't like how they were treating the residents overall. We also did not like how they would just put them out in the middle of the night, and it would have something to do with, money or finances, or them not getting all of their money. And that did not sit right with us, the way that they treated the residents overall. And that particular pastor that I talked about, he ended up not really being a great guy. And how he spoke to people was so condescending and very not godly at all. Okay. It was very much, I'm in control. I'm the founder. I created this. What I say goes. This is what I see. It was very much, very arrogant, very much. He didn't care about the little person, so to speak, in air quotes, because I told you he was a big guy anyway. And that just did not roll out well with us. So we decided we came together. We decided, are we gonna stay in this? Because this is feeling really uncomfortable, like very uncomfortable for us to even be there, because it was a constant situation. We were constantly on guard. We weren't given a key. We were, kind of talked down to. And I was like, this is not comfortable at all, or at all what we thought this was going to be. Yes, we helped some of the we prayed for the residents, and they came to us and we gave them godly wisdom and godly guidance. But every day we're feeling uneasy as a couple and what our job description is. So we made the decision that we weren't going to stay there. And we also made the decision that we were going to leave in the middle of the night because we didn't want to encounter any of the residents that would probably try to stop us from leaving, and, and just kind of making a whole ordeal of all of them coming out their room at the same time. So we're like, what are we going to do? We decide to call up the lady that I spoke about that gave us the ins and the outs of how things go. And now she's living on her own. She told us that she had an extra room or so at some point. And so we were like, well, let's call her and let's see how this goes. So we call her and tell her the situation, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna come and get you, pack your stuff, that kind of thing. So we left out of there in the middle of the night. Okay, we left out of there in the middle of the night. And what happened? We left out of there, we packed our stuff, we ended up at her place. Okay, we ended up at her place, and she has a nice apartment. She has definitely a room that's, that was free with a tad bit of a small walk-in closet. So we had space to put our things in, but we're like, what's next? So we are immediately looking for jobs or whatever on the moment that we wake up, if we even had went to sleep that much. And we're looking for positions. I'm trying to get my husband's resume out and all of the things, right? And we're looking for positions and things like that. Meanwhile, we're there couple days, and so we're getting settled in, feeling kind of okay. We have a good connection with the lady, and the lady has a boyfriend. And that boyfriend, comes over, and we seen him, and he kind of understood what the deal was. Now we fast forward to about the 7-day mark or so. We're at a week mark, and the lady is highly upset. She was irritated at other times, but now she's highly upset with the boyfriend. And she's highly upset with the boyfriend, and they had been arguing throughout the days. But this particular day, she's like, she's done. She's through. She is wanting to, she's done. She's through. She is wanting him to get out. Okay. But that wasn't it. While she's telling him to get out, she was like, everybody out. I want everybody out of my house. We like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, what did we do? Okay. It's like 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. What do you mean? What? I want everybody out of my house right now. I don't care. I don't care where you gotta go. We have no family there, no friends there, no connections, no nothing. We just left this organization right in the middle of the night like a week ago. She literally was our only connection, right? Oh my gosh. Okay. So she literally was our only connection. And we're like, what do you mean you want us to get out? And so she's like, I don't care where you go. I don't care. Da, da, da. And we're like, okay, well, I guess we're going to have to call the police, right? Because we know nobody. It's 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the morning. She done put the guy out. He don't care about taking us nowhere. He already feels away, right? So she's put him out. And so now we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. Okay. So we call the cops, like I said, and the cops show up, right? The cops show up. And this is where I'm going to stop this story right here. I'm going to stop story time right here. And I'm going to make this a part 2, because part 2 is even more interesting, and you will be able to see the hand of God in part 2 for sure. As this story comes to, as this story kind of transitions and comes to an end. But I'm going to end part 1 here. And then I want you to meet me for the continuation of this story time, because it's really, really good. So I'm going to end story time here, and meet me in the continuation of this. Okay. And like always, we are breaking barriers and healing those shattered dreams, one story at a time. Bye.